There are moments when life hits you like a thunderstorm, loud, sudden, and without mercy. You feel the weight in your chest, the silence in your soul, and the question echoing in your mind, hey, how do I keep going? If you're listening to this, you're likely facing something heavy. Maybe it's heartbreak, maybe you've lost someone, or maybe life just isn't going the way you thought it would. I want you to know something. Your pain is real, but so is your power. True strength is not loud. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, get up, keep going, one more step. And that's what being strong is all about, and not avoiding the storm, but learning how to walk through it with unshakable calm. Control what you can, accept what you can't. There is an invisible battle happening every single day, a battle not in the world outside, but in the soul within. It is the war between what we wish we could control and what we actually can. Many people suffer not because of what life throws at them, but because of how tightly they try to hold on to things that were never theirs to command. The Stoic path is not about indifference, but clarity. It is the courage to face life as it is, and the wisdom to know what is in our hands and what is not. You do not control the weather, the economy, other people's opinions, or the timing of fate. You don't get to decide whether someone loves you or leaves you, whether today will be easy or filled with trials. But you do control how you respond. You control whether you greet hardship with bitterness or with grace. You control your choices, your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And that is more than enough. When a storm rolls across the sky, a wise sailor does not curse the winds as he adjusts his sails. So too must we. Life is filled with uncertainty. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will blindside you. Plans will fall apart. The future will remain unknown. But your ability to stay calm, to choose virtue, to act with reason and not impulse, this is always within your grasp. Control is not about force, it's about focus. The Stoics believed that true power lies in governing yourself. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. You can't control the silence of a loved one, but you can control the meaning you assign to it. You can't force your body to heal overnight, but you can choose discipline in your recovery. You can't predict tomorrow, but you can live today with clarity, courage, and character. Every time you try to grasp the uncontrollable, you are building a prison of anxiety. Think of the energy we waste trying to change others, trying to rewrite the past, trying to outpace the future. The past is gone. The future is not promised. The only moment you ever truly own is the present, and in that present moment, you have the power to act wisely or foolishly, with peace or panic, with love or with fear. That choice is yours. Always. A person may insult you, lie about you, reject you, but your mind is your own. You can choose not to respond with hatred. You can choose to hold your dignity. You can choose silence instead of reaction, calm instead of chaos. What they do is on them. What you do is on you. Therein lies your freedom. You cannot force outcomes. You can prepare. You can try. You can pray. But you cannot demand the world to bend to your will. If you tie your happiness to things outside your control as success, fame, health, validation, you are giving away your peace. You become a slave to the spinning wheel of fortune. But if your joy comes from acting justly, thinking clearly, and living with courage, then no one can take it from you. There is tremendous peace in surrender, and not to weakness, but to truth. When you stop fighting the reality you cannot change, you gain the power to change your response. Acceptance is not passive. It is strength in its highest form. It says, I will no longer waste my life resisting the wind. I will learn to move with it, and find my way through. Imagine two people facing the same hardship. One is consumed by rage, blaming everyone and everything. The other takes a breath, sees the reality clearly, and asks, what can I do now? Which one is stronger? Which one is truly free? Freedom is not found in controlling the world, it is found in mastering yourself. When you realize that your thoughts, values, and character are yours to shape, you become untouchable. The world may shake, but you remain grounded. That's not denial. That's discipline. Let go of needing to control the narrative. Let go of needing to be understood by everyone. Let go of the need to win every argument, to fix every situation, to avoid every discomfort. Life is not a machine you can program. It is a river, and your strength lies in how you navigate it. A Stoic doesn't suppress emotion, they observe it. When grief comes, they allow it. When fear whispers, they listen. but do not obey. They don't cling to outcomes, they commit to effort. They don't panic when things fall apart. They remember that even this momentous hardship is part of the greater order, and they were born to face it. You were not put here to control the chaos. You were put here to bring order to your soul. The world may remain wild. People may remain unpredictable, but you can remain calm. You can remain virtuous. You can remain free. Practice this every day. When something frustrates you, ask, is this in my control? If the answer is no, release it. Let it go like a leaf in the wind. If the answer is yes, act with purpose, not panic. Respond. Don't react. Take ownership, not of the storm, but of your sails. You are not powerless. On the contrary, you are more powerful than you know when you place your focus on the only thing you were ever meant to control, yourself. You may face injustice. You may face cruelty. You may face moments so painful they bring you to your knees. But even there, in the fire, you have a choice. Will you let it destroy you or refine you? Will you become bitter, or will you become wise? Let go of the need to control what is not yours. Take full command of what is. Speak with honesty. Act with integrity. Think with clarity. Stand with courage. This is the Stoic way. This is the way of enduring strength. Do not waste another day trapped in the illusion of control. Do not spend another moment chained to expectations that are not yours to decide. You are not the architect of fate, but you are the master of your response. And when you finally accept this truth, and not just with words, but with your actions, so life becomes lighter. The noise quiets. The fear fades. You are no longer at war with the world. You are at peace with your purpose. You can walk through fire with grace when you stop trying to extinguish it and start learning how to walk through it with calm. You can face loss with dignity when you stop resisting what was never guaranteed. You can find peace even in chaos when you remember, your soul was built for this. Remember this every time life shakes you. The power to remain unshaken was always yours. Pain is a teacher, not a curse. There is a kind of silence that comes with pain, a silence that screams louder than words ever could. It settles in your chest, your mind, and your spirit. And in those moments, when the world feels too heavy to bear, it's easy to believe that pain is something cruel, something unfair, something you must run from or destroy. But what if pain isn't your enemy? What if it's your greatest teacher? In this philosophy of the Stoics, pain was never something to be feared. It was to be understood, studied, and even embraced, because pain reveals what comfort hides. It strips away illusions. It forces you to face yourself and not the image you show the world, but your true, unguarded self. And in that confrontation, you find something rare, growth. We are not forged in times of ease. We are shaped in the furnace of trials. You do not become stronger by avoiding difficulty. You become stronger by walking through it, slowly, deliberately, with eyes open and soul steady. Pain does not come to destroy you. It comes to awaken you. It comes to show you the parts of yourself that were waiting to be discovered. Your courage, your endurance, your resilience. When life breaks your heart, it's not punishment. It's a reminder of how deeply you can feel. When you lose something or someone you love, it's not a curse. It's proof that you had something meaningful. And when your plans fall apart, when the future becomes uncertain, pain steps in not to ruin you, but to redirect you and to nudge you toward who you were meant to become, not just who you wanted to be. Pain refines, it humbles, it reveals, and above all, it teaches. When you sit with pain instead of fleeing from it, you begin to understand its language. You realize that the ache in your chest is asking you to listen and to slow down, to reflect, to grow. You learn to ask different questions. Not why me? But what is this here to teach me? Not how do I escape this? But how do I become wiser because of it? The Stoics believed that adversity was the training ground of the soul. That pain wasn't an interruption to life, it was life, revealing itself in its most honest form. When you experience suffering, you are not being punished, you are being instructed. The universe is not cruel, it is rigorous. And life, in all its messiness and unpredictability, is always guiding you if you are willing to listen. There is a lesson buried in every hardship. Sometimes it is a call to let go. Sometimes it is a warning not to take what matters for granted. Sometimes it is a mirror, showing you a truth you've long avoided. But it is always, always a chance to grow. You don't need to love pain, but you can learn from it. You don't need to pretend it doesn't hurt, but you can stop letting it define you. You don't need to wish it away, but you can make it serve a purpose greater than suffering. That is the Stoic path, and not to become numb, but to become aware, not to harden, but to deepen. You may feel like life has pressed you into the ground, that the weight of grief or failure or betrayal is too much to carry. But here is the truth: pain may bring you to your knees, but it also brings you to yourself. It strips away distraction and makes you look inward. And what you find there, in the quiet of your suffering, is the foundation of real strength. Think of the times in your life that changed you most. Were they easy? Were they filled with joy and clarity and peace? Or were they born out of struggle, out of nights when you couldn't sleep, days when everything felt like it was falling apart? The most powerful parts of your character were forged not when life was kind, but when it was harsh and you chose to rise anyway. There is a fire inside you. You may not always feel it, but it's there. Pain is not the extinguisher of that fire, it is the fuel. When you lean into your trials, when you stop asking to be spared and start asking to be strengthened, you give pain a purpose. You stop being a victim and start becoming a student. This is not about romanticizing suffering. This is not about pretending everything happens for a reason. Life is not always fair. Tragedy is real, but what is in your power is how you respond. And when you begin to treat pain as a teacher, not a curse, you reclaim your power in the one place it matters most, within. Some lessons can only be learned in the dark. Some strengths can only be born through loss. Some wisdom only rises when everything else falls away. Pain forces you to prioritize, to understand what really matters, to stop chasing things that don't. It teaches you to be patient, to be present, to be kind to yourself and others. Have you ever noticed how those who have suffered deeply often carry a stillness, a gentleness, a kind of silent strength that doesn't need to be spoken? That is the mark of someone who has let pain teach them, not break them. They've walked through fire, and they carry its wisdom, not its scars. When you stop fighting pain, you stop being controlled by it. When you accept that life includes loss, you begin to live with greater appreciation. When you realize that discomfort is part of progress, you stop waiting for the right time to grow. You see every moment, even the hard ones, as part of your training. There is nothing wrong with feeling pain. There is something noble in facing it with intention. Let yourself grieve. Let yourself feel. But don't let it turn you cold. Don't let it steal your hope. Let it deepen your understanding. Let it open your heart wider than before. The Stoics believed in the power of voluntary hardship, and not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they understood that comfort alone breeds weakness. They practiced facing discomfort so that when true adversity came, they would meet it not with fear, but with familiarity. They did not run from pain. They welcomed it like a teacher walking through the door. Pain is the fire that tests your integrity, your values, your discipline. Will you still be kind when the world is unkind to you? Will you still act with honor when no reward is promised? Will you still hold on to your principles when everything around you tries to shake them loose? These are the questions pain asks, and how you answer defines your life. Sometimes pain teaches you to let go of a dream, of a person, of a belief that no longer serves you. Sometimes pain teaches you to hold on to your boundaries, to your truth, to your sense of purpose. But always, it teaches, do not rush to escape your pain. Be curious about it, sit with it, ask it what it wants to show you, and when it answers, and not with words, but with insight, listen. The answers may not come all at once, but if you stay open, they will come. You may never fully understand why something happened, but you can understand what it taught you. You can become more empathetic, more grounded, more courageous. You can transform your suffering into service, your grief into gratitude, your wounds into wisdom. That is how you honor your pain, and not by erasing it, but by making it meaningful. And when you begin to do that, something incredible happens. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to know that no matter what life throws your way, you will not only survive, you will grow. Because pain is no longer a curse to be avoided. It is a teacher to be learned from. Strength is silent, steady, and resilient. Real strength does not scream. It does not boast. It does not demand attention or parade itself in front of others. True strength moves quietly through the world, invisible to most, yet powerful beyond measure. It is steady in its steps, calm in its chaos, and unshaken when the ground breaks beneath its feet. Strength, in its highest form, is not loud up, it is unbreakable silence. We often think of strength as dominance, aggression, or noise. We confuse volume with conviction. But the strongest people are often the ones you never notice in the room. They are not chasing applause. They are listening, observing, enduring. Their confidence doesn't come from proving others wrong. It comes from knowing who they are and choosing to remain anchored even when life does everything it can to push them off course. A storm is never announced by a scream, but by silence. A mountain never brags about its endurance. It simply stands, day after day, season after season, through wind, rain, and fire it remains. That is strength. To hold your center when the world shifts around you. To keep your character intact when it would be easier to let it fall. To walk through suffering, not untouched, but undestroyed. When a person is truly strong, they do not need to retaliate to every insult, they do not need to win every argument, they do not feel the urge to correct every misconception. Why? Because they know what is within their control and what is not, and they refuse to waste their energy on battles that do not serve their peace. That restraint is not weakness, it is discipline. It is the kind of power only the wise understand. Resilience is not about never breaking, it's about what you choose to do after the break. It's the decision to rise when everything in you wants to give up. It's holding onto a single thread of hope when the world tells you to let go. And it's doing so without theatrics, without the need for recognition. Strength is choosing to keep going, not because the path is easy, but because you've made peace with the difficulty and resolved to walk through it anyway. Strength does not always look like courage on a battlefield. Sometimes, it looks like waking up after another sleepless night and facing a day that you dread. Sometimes it's staying kind in a world that has been unkind to you. Sometimes it's forgiving someone who will never apologize. Sometimes it's not reacting, not giving into the urge to explode or retreat. Sometimes it's simply breathing, silently, steadily, while the storm rages around you. Steady strength is forged in the repetition of small, quiet acts. It's not built on grand gestures, but on consistency, doing what is right even when no one sees, choosing the harder path because it aligns with your values, standing firm when temptation calls. Strength is saying no when you could have said yes. It is being grounded when others are shaken. It is showing up and not once, but every single time life asks you to rise. The Stoics taught that virtue is strength, that character is the highest form of power, not influence, not money, not status, but the quiet, unwavering integrity of a person who lives by principle, the kind of strength that refuses to betray itself, the kind of resilience that bends but does not break. That is the strength that lasts, that outlives applause, that grows sharper with trial and deeper with time. There is a quiet kind of warrior who lives inside each of us, a presence that does not yell for attention but shows itself when everything falls apart. You see it when a parent fights to hold their family together without complaint. You see it in the eyes of someone grieving who still finds the strength to care for others. You see it in those who suffer silently, who cry in private, and still rise with dignity. Resilient strength is not measured in days of sunshine. It is measured in nights of darkness, in moments when everything goes wrong and you stay the course anyway. It is built not in comfort but in pressure, not in ease but in endurance, and not in applause but in solitude. Because the strongest parts of you are built when no one is watching, when you choose to keep going without being asked, thanked, or praised. Stillness in adversity is strength. Silence and rage is strength. Patience and pain is strength. The world may tell you otherwise. It may equate strength with reaction, volume, force, but the Stoic path teaches that true power lies in stillness, and self-control, in inner stability. You are strongest not when you react, but when you choose not to, when you pause, reflect, and respond from a place of wisdom instead of emotion. This kind of strength is hard to see because it is not loud, but you feel it in presence, in the kind of person who doesn't waver when challenged, who doesn't gossip, retaliate, or crumble, who doesn't need to explain themselves because their life speaks for them, their actions speak for them, their energy, calm and composed, says everything without a word. Real strength is not about always being right, it's about being rooted. It's not about never falling, it's about rising better each time. It's not about being invincibly, it's about being courageous enough to face life without armor. Strong people bleed, they cry, they break, but they don't stay broken. They heal, they rebuild, and they return stronger, not in hardness, but in depth. A Stoic is strong not because they feel no pain, but because they walk through pain without losing their soul. They suffer, but they do not surrender to despair. They fail, but they do not forfeit their values. They may tremble, but they do not fall apart. Their strength is not in their ability to avoid a storm, but in their ability to remain standing while it passes. Think of the tree that survives the winter. It does not bloom, it does not shine, but it holds, it endures. Its roots grow deeper, and in time, when the season changes, it blossoms again. That is the strength you carry, the kind that endures the winters of your life with quiet grace, knowing that spring will come, not because of what happens outside, but because of what lies within. You do not need to shout to be strong. You do not need to prove your strength to anyone. Let your life be your testimony. Let your presence be your power. Let your peace be your protest against chaos. Let your silence speak of depth, your restraint of wisdom, your steady walk of resilience. Some days you will feel weak. That's normal. Strength isn't the absence of weakness, it's the choice to keep walking with it. Some days you will want to quit. That's human. Strength isn't about never wavering up, it's about continuing despite the weight. And some days, you will wonder if your quiet endurance matters. It does. It always has. Because the world does not change from loudness alone. It changes from those who carry light in the darkness without seeking recognition. Let yourself be that quiet force. Let your strength be the kind that doesn't need to be noticed to be real. The kind that builds silently, day by day. The kind that isn't shaken by circumstance. The kind that draws its power from truth, not appearance. There is no greater strength than living with intention in a world of distraction. No greater courage than remaining calm in a time of panic. No greater resilience than holding on to your soul when the world tries to take it. You have that strength. You've proven it already, in ways the world may never see. Keep building it, not for them, for you. When it's hard, remember, every difficulty is an invitation to rise. Be calm, be grounded. When emotions flare, don't react or reflect. When the world shakes, be the mountain. When all else falls away, let your virtue remain. You have endured before, you will endure again. So breathe, stand tall, face the storm, and not with fear, but with fire in your heart. Because no matter what life throws your way, you were born to rise, again, and again, and again. Stay strong, and not because it's easy, but because it's who you are.